Speaking of which, let's talk about Djokovic. You know, history has many examples of how some of the greatest men are remembered for their one bad deed. Brutus, for instance, a noble man, as Shakespeare writes, but the world remembers him as that character who colluded with others to kill Julius Caesar. A more recent and less fictional example is Carlos Ghosn. He's done wonders for Nissan, but to most of the world, Carlos Ghosn will remain that Nissan boss who was arrested in Japan and fled the country. Joining this list is tennis player Novak Djokovic. He's 34, he's fierce and brilliant at his game. Djokovic has 20 Grand Slam titles. He has won all Grand Slams, all Masters 1000 events, at least twice. This man has a phenomenal record. He's currently the world's #1 tennis player, and he came to Australia to become the greatest man in the history of the game, to become the only man to win 21 Grand Slam titles, to race ahead of Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer. But he's lost, even before he played the first match. And even if he manages to play now and possibly win, he'll come out a loser. I'll tell you why I say so, but before that, I want you to look at this video.
Whatever way you look at it, Novak Djokovic is a lying, sneaky.
He's an asshole. He got a fucking excuse and then fell over his own lies, which is what happens, right?
Yeah.
That's what's happened.
And then him now then ticking he didn't go to Spain.
Yeah.
It's just like...
Yeah. But I think he's going to get away with it.
These anchors did not know they were being recorded. But they aren't the only ones calling Djokovic a liar. The most faithful of his fans are questioning his conduct. And this time, it's not about being the bad guy in the era of good men's tennis. It's not about slamming the racket or hitting the linesperson with the ball. This time, it's about putting people's lives at risk. Djokovic chose not to take the jab. He then flew to Australia to play the Grand Slam. He took a flight from Spain. The immigration form asked if he had travelled anywhere in the last 14 days. He said he had not, when in fact, he had travelled. He was seen both in Spain and Serbia in the days leading up to his flight. So basically, Djokovic lied. And now he's caught. So he's calling it an error. An error by whom? An administrative mistake by the agent. That's his excuse. This is what he says. My agent sincerely apologizes for the administrative mistake in ticking the incorrect box. Do you know that old excuse, the dog ate my homework? This is another version of it. Primary school children blame their pets, and Novak Djokovic is blaming his agent. Also, the virus from China. This is what he says. We are living in challenging times in a global pandemic, and sometimes these mistakes can occur. This is a line from his latest statement. Yes, these are challenging times, and hence, one must conduct himself accordingly, especially if you are the #1 player in the world. Novak Djokovic attended 2 events while he was infected, while he was COVID positive. When exactly did he test positive? He does not have a clear answer to that question either. Initially, his team said the date was the 16th of December. That's when he tested positive. And going by his social media posts, Djokovic broke isolation the very next day and then the day after. He was attending public events on the 17th and 18th of December. These photos went viral. His family was asked if he'd violated isolation rules. They dodged.
I'm sorry, is there a follow-up question?
Is it true that on the 16th of December he did test positive and he knew he was positive?
Yes, the whole process was public, and all the documents that are public are legal, so...
Was he at an event on the 17th of December?
Okay, so this press conference is adjourned at the moment. Thank you for attention.
This conversation happened on the 10th of January. 2 days later, Djokovic had a new story and a new timeline. According to the latest statement, he learned about his infection only on the 17th of December, not the 16th, which is fine, but it doesn't really help. Because he stepped out the next day too, he attended an event and gave an interview. Why? Djokovic says he, quote-unquote, felt obliged. He did not want to let the journalist down. Did it occur to him that he was putting the life of the very same journalist at risk? And this journalist, by the way, was told not to ask anything about the vaccination status of the player. He said Djokovic's team told him to drop the question. And then the interview was done. Now, Djokovic admits that this was an error, not an administrative error this time, thankfully, but an error of judgment. Who are they trying to fool here? They keep changing the story and tying themselves up in knots. Either he never really tested positive and made up an excuse to get a vaccine exemption, or he did test positive, knew about it, and yet went around meeting people. Either way, he's at fault. And the entire episode makes him look very bad and petty. This man is a vocal and unapologetic anti-vaxxer. He used his position to manage an exemption. It blew in his face. He may go and play and then even win the Australian Open, but he will still lose face because the world number one has not played fair this time. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.